Lisbon and London.
Welcome back. I'm Michael. You are listening to The Michael Dresser Show. Michael Grayson with us, Dr. Michael Grayson, Ph.D. The book is Extreme Credit, Volume 1, Perfect Credit in 90 Days or Less. Michael is the president and CEO of Grayson Financial Services. And before assuming the helm at Grayson, his professional career included 20 years working as a credit industry insider. He retired from the credit industry and started Grayson Financial around 2000, offering credit-driven financial products to individuals, businesses, politicians, celebrities, corporations, professional athletes, churches, nonprofit organizations, and industry professionals. Michael, hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you.
Oh, and thank you so much for being here. You know, when we talked credit 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was one thing. But in today's world, Michael, I would venture to guess that most people, and I would say the greater percentage of people, are totally confused when it comes to getting credit. Sure, you can get credit now and you can buy a house, but look at the kind of gold you have to be to do so as opposed to the way it used to be. Where was this transition? Where was it that the word credit took on a completely different definition?
Well, in the year 2000, this country switched from the old credit system to the new FICO credit scoring system. So prior to 2000, it was a merit-based system. So basically, if you paid your bills on time, you basically had good credit. So before 2000, if I asked you, how was your credit, I'm really saying, do you pay your bills on time? So that was a much less complex system, very simple, easy to understand, easy for people to grasp the concept of restoring their credit or rebuilding their credit. But now we're in a FICO environment in a post-global meltdown era. So in addition to having the FICO standards, which are completely different than the old system standards, banks are much more restrictive because we're in a post-meltdown environment.
Sure. And I think, Michael, what scares everybody today is the amount that you will pay in interest. You know, you go back to the time you were talking about, we had the usury laws. I think it was, 12.5%, something close. Sure. No one could charge over that, which was fine. But if you were to buy a house in the last 5 years, pick a number, the house is worth $100,000. Well, if you run that out over 30 years, you're going to pay $350,000 for that house.
Easily.
Yeah, easily, absolutely, for cars and everything else. I think that's the trap that most people don't see. And I think another major trap, and I've seen it time and again on television, no credit, no problem, come on over. I can imagine what kind of interest that's being charged.
Well, you know, this is my problem right now, and this is why, you know, I'm actively doing workshops all over the country and trying to educate people in different sectors. Everybody in the country is trying to get the average American to forget about credit, to not concentrate or focus on credit because it is singly the most lucrative industry on the planet. You know, the credit industry, using the FICO system, they have been able to churn out trillions of dollars in profits that they couldn't do otherwise. If you look at some industry, pre-FICO industries like the insurance industry, back in the early 2000s, some of those insurance companies were struggling. The industry was having some issues, but they brought in a FICO system, and now they also introduced risk-based pricing. So the insurance rates that you pay now are primarily based on your credit score. So if you have bad credit, you're paying more for insurance than someone that has good credit.
By the way, let me interrupt just for a moment because that reminds me of something that I heard of just recently. I was talking to an insurance agent, and, well, not recently, it was about a couple of years ago, and I was in the process of getting a new car, and I didn't have a car for probably 45 days. And before I got to the new one, and I remember the insurance agent said, well, let me cancel it for about the month and a half. I don't have a car. I have no reason for it. And he said, well, when you go back, they're going to be checking your credit scores and everything to get insurance. And I thought, that's interesting, you know.
Well, what has happened is because before the FICO system, insurance was based on your zip code and your driving record. So the percentage of Americans with, maybe they're in bad neighborhoods or with bad driving records is a smaller, finite subset versus the the number of Americans with credit issues. Right now, approximately 80% of the country has a credit or debt issue. And so it's much more profitable to overcharge that segment of the population.
Absolutely, and it's easy to do if there's nowhere to turn, if they need the car, the something, the whatever.
Exactly.
I have a relative of mine, she probably 15, 18 years ago, she got a student loan. I think it was for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and then she got disabled, and many things happened to her. And today she hasn't been able to pay the loan back. It's
Right.
almost $20,000,
Yeah.
and it's an unforgivable loan.
Well, debt collectors are really having a great time with the new credit system because it creates perpetual debt. Because the interest rates drive people to a level where they can't repay, then the debt goes into collection, and they can tack on so many excessive fees.
Sure.
And then they can later come back and garnish your wages. Those guys are really having a good time of it, when it's unfortunate because there's so many debt forgiveness programs and fresh start programs that really Americans have to concentrate and understand that the debt system is very complicated. It's not easy. It's not managing or just paying your bills. You have to do some research. You have to know, you have to read the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You have to understand the mechanisms that control debt in this country.
And there's something else to take a look at also when we are dealing with this, the mechanisms to control debt. It's not like somebody can walk out and go to a class for debt. The old definition of bankruptcy is truly not what it is today.
Yes.
And in some cases, bankruptcy is the best thing that could happen because it was created for some kind of relief that most people don't get. So it's not like, thumbing your nose at everybody saying, it's a way to be able to work through. Let's go to General Motors for a moment, not to be political. They could have went bankrupt. They could have went bankrupt. They could have gotten into a program where they could pay everything back off in a way that they could do it, and wouldn't have had to got a ton of money from the government.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not getting on either side of the aisle, but there are times when, if the law is going to be used against you, there's ways to walk through it where you can survive. And thank goodness there's guys like you out there.
Well, you've hit on a very important point, which I'm glad you brought out. For every problem, there's definitely a strategy or solution, but unfortunately, it's like you said, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm very concerned that traditional learning institutions have not embraced credit technology or debt technology. They're not really teaching students in high school and in college how to improve their credit or build credit and manage debt. So you're right. There's no easy place where you can go. You can't just rely on the internet because there's more bad information than good. So you really have to do your homework and be very diligent and look for the truth in every situation.
Okay, Michael, let's bring this to a practical level. What is what's the profile of somebody who would come to you?
Okay. Most of my clients are small business owners. Right now, small business owners are they're having a hard time maintaining and staying in business because this meltdown has hurt them more than anybody else.
Sure.
Their access to capital has been shut down or greatly reduced, such that it's very difficult for them to stay in business.
And the competitive nature of the world out there. We're at a very hyper-competitive culture now.
Yeah, there's no question. So with these guys, they have, traditionally very bad credit because they've had access to a lot of capital, and now that capital has been shut down. So most of my clients will come to me with very bad credit, and the first step that we will have to embrace is how to resolve some of their credit issues, how to eliminate the derogatory information from their credit profile.
Okay, so what happens? I walk in, I'm one of those kind of people. I'm a small business. I'm at a place now where I owe and I can't really pay. I'm getting less in than I need to pay bills.
Yes.
And I don't want to go out of business, so I sit in your office. What do we do?
Okay, the first thing we have to do is separate your good debt from your bad debt. Good debt is any debt where you're less than 90 days past due on. That is a good debt. So all the bad debts, once we're 120 days past due, we're going to table those for right now. We're not going to worry about those. We're going to focus on the good debt. Once we total the good debt, if this good debt is such that we can easily afford to pay it or we can comfortably pay it and still put some money aside for future endeavors, then the good debt we will go ahead and pay.
Now, let me jump in with something so I don't want to forget this. So let's call it the bad debt, all right? The bad debt. Is that negotiable with that person that you owe the money with? I mean, can you pay it off?
There's no question about it.
Okay, go ahead.
The bad debt is extremely negotiable, to the extent that you really shouldn't be paying more than 10 to 30% on any bad debt.
Yeah,
and so we have a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, and wonderfully enough, those people that you owe know that.
Yes, there's no question. And understand this, they will offer you right out of the gate a 50% reduction. Anybody can do that. A 3-year-old could negotiate a 50% reduction.
Yeah.
Where your homework comes in or coming to someone that's an expert like myself or coming to my company, we're going to negotiate them down to 10 to 30 cents on the dollar, which is that's what you're paying us to do.
Yeah, but see, there's where the point is. I mean, the guys like yourself, thank goodness you're out there. There are so many people, they're honest, they don't want to hurt anybody, they didn't steal anything, but yet they've got themselves in a position now, what do I do now?
Right.
And that's where it is. So it's the difference between going out of business and whatever happens, or staying in business and creating a strategy to do so.
And not only that, they have a duty to the American population to stay in business, because small businesses is what employs the country. Corporations don't employ the country.
Sure.
69.7% of all jobs come from small businesses. So if we don't help them or find strategies or communicate to them strategies to stay in business, it's going to destroy the economy even further.
No, absolutely. There is no question about it. So effectively then, it's not that you're going to run away from you as the businessman, not you're going to run away from it, but you're going to cover what's necessary because those brand new, the good debt, let's call it, that's the stuff you're functioning on right now. Whoever you owe that money to are supplying you with something that will allow you to stay in business.
Right.
The bad debt, go ahead.
And not only that, your job is to maintain perfect credit or as close to it as possible. So you want to nurture those relationships that are giving you some positive credit. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. No. That's basically I paraphrased it in a different way. Now, what does it take to do something like that? Obviously, somebody's got to come in. They give you all the information, and you set the program out with them. Now, is this something whereby you guys can deal all over the country?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's no question about it.
All right.
There's no question.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are.
How do we find out about consulting? How do we get to you?
Okay. Well, let me start with my direct number. It's 718-322-7220. And if you forget the number, we're Grayson Financial Services. We're listed, on the internet. You can Google us. We have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, and our website is 990club.com.
Okay, now is the phone number on the website?
The phone number is on the website.
Okay, wonderful, because if somebody missed it, your website is up on our website, so they know how to direct to you.
Our phone number is there.
Yeah, but I think really, Michael, it's so important today to be able to know that there is an option, there's some kind of a choice where somebody knows that they can turn somewhere. If you don't know that there's an answer out there, there's where the problem is. And it goes even deeper than losing the business. The guys get pressured, and they take it home, and it causes problems with the family. I mean, this goes on and on.
Exactly. Well, if you read the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it actually says in the law that, unfair debt collection practices lead to bankruptcy is number one, and then marital instability is actually number two. It says it in the law.
Wow.
So it's common knowledge. But it leads to marital instability.
Yeah, there was I'm going to end this on we're just about running out of time, but I want to end this on a smiley note. There was a YouTube thing that I saw that was interesting. I think I saw it or heard it on YouTube. there was a guy who was getting hounded by people, collection agencies. So the collection guy called one day, and he got on the phone with him. Oh, it was on the radio. I heard this guy got on the phone, and he said, "It's Mr. So and So there, the collection agent." And he said, "No, who's calling?" He says, "Well, is he there?" I said, "Who's calling?" And the guy said, "Well," he said, "this is Detective so and so. There's been a murder here." He said, "Hey, this is who I am. I didn't do it." Oh, well, always a good way. Hey, Michael Grayson, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you having me. I hope I was a little help. I'm glad you're encouraging everybody, and keep up the good job.
Wonderful. Okay, take care.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.